In the biggest moments of your life or in your darkest hour, will you be enough? Can you count on yourself and can others count on you? If everything you rely on was taken from you and you had to stand alone in front of the world and define yourself, what would you say? I am James Dean Hensel. I am a son of God created with purpose. I am the son of Myron Hensel, a man who would not be moved. I am the husband to Kristen Hensel, my fish girl. I am the father of Taylor and Brittany Hensel, daughters of promise. I am a challenger, exhorter, and an encourager born to fight. I will run to the battle, for in the battle I find peace. I commit to live my life anchored in my values. I commit to make choices and decisions based on my code. I believe in fight, work, hope, faith, team, family, excellence, purpose, responsibility, and love. I will have the strength to do what is right. Honor is the foundation of my code. I commit to live my life anchored in my values. I will represent myself, my family, and my country with the character and dignity necessary to serve with purpose and with hope.
Hey, I'm Colby Jubenville, and I'd like to welcome you to the campus of Middle Tennessee State University. And I'm in studio today with my good friend Jim Hensel, and we're finishing up the Grind Your Bee video series. It's our piece that we focus on in the 5 to Arrive for emotional intelligence. And I was sharing with Jim earlier today that one of the things that I think has changed about higher education is that students used to come to campus with the intention of building personal relationships. And it seems like today that that's not the case, that it's been much more transactional in the sense that they're coming here to get the piece of paper to go out into the world. And so part of what you've created here, we hope, is for them to slow down, to get to know themselves. Part 3 is living your bee.
Right.
And hopefully through that process that meaningful relationships will develop along the way.
We've used a lot of different language and try to describe this in different ways, hoping to connect with people. It's hard to be an individual in the culture that we live in. And I'm not talking about anything nefarious. It's just hard with as much input as we're getting.
Right.
With as much influence. People that are vying for our attention through social media or the news cycle or just email.
Yeah.
When you come, you want to connect. Most of us want to connect, and I like to call it tribe. We want to be part of the team or be a part of the tribe.
Yeah.
And so it's easy to see ourselves inside of that, but it's hard when we step outside of tribe or outside of team to really kind of know who we are.
Yeah.
And to be able to stand up and say, man, this is who I am, and this is what I represent, and this is why I'm valuable.
Right.
So the idea here in this series was to be able to give the students something to work through, some challenges, to create some tools, create some language that would help them understand their significance inside of tribe. What's their value here on the campus?
Yep.
What do they mean? How do they fit into the culture here?
Right.
And outside of that, here's who I am. And I think that term be, that we use all the time here, your values, your talents, and ultimately your purpose, that's what we were driving at.
Yeah, I love that. The most basic need of people, and I take this from Brene Brown, she says the most basic need of people is to connect and feel connected.
Absolutely.
And so what I believe through this process of Grind Your Bee is that we've found a way to begin that process. And so through this process, and we've done this now over a year's time.
Right.
One of the things that the biggest takeaway for me is, in reflecting on this material, is we're taught that if you want more, then you need more education.
Right.
If you want more, then you need more opportunity. If you want more, then you need more relationship. And while all that's true, what I think you're saying is, well, if you want more, the very first thing you have to do is get more of you.
Right.
And you make that really simple to understand through these challenges.
That's right.
And then conclude it with part 3, which is living your B.
Right.
And you break it down into those very simple ideas of I am, I believe, and I will.
Yeah, the quest in the beginning was for language, for words. We find ourselves at a loss of words. We talked about if I put you up in front of, your greatest moments, your darkest hour. That was the big picture we drew in the beginning.
Yeah.
What if I put the spotlight on you in front of your class and said, define yourself. Who are you? What do you stand for? What do you believe? No right or wrong answers, just do it. Most people struggle to do that. And so the quest was for language.
Yeah.
And now that we've gone through all the challenges and we've arrived at this final challenge number 8 here, we want to take all the language that we developed, all the things that we know, and we want to put it into something that's concise. And so the I am, the I believe, and the I will were the terms that I came up with. This I am or purpose statement, this I believe, which is the 10 core values that we've worked so hard to narrow down and
Faith, hope,
yeah,
fight.
for me, fight, work, hope, faith, team, family, access, purpose, responsibility, love, and freedom. And the students all have their own based on who they are and what they believe that really represent strengths and weaknesses and wants in their lives. And then finally, that mission statement that kind of says, here's who I am, here's what I believe, and then here's what I'm going to do. And so that's really the last piece to this.
And to me, the center of all that is the I believe. Because if I look back on my life and look at the relationships that mattered the most, what I found is there was an alignment in belief.
Yeah.
And so those shared values define the expectation of the relationship and the expectation for what you want to try to accomplish. And so that I believe statement is so important for a student because once they can crystallize that, then I think it becomes a filter. These 3 questions, or these 3 ideas, these 3 statements become a filter for the relationships they want to build, the opportunities they want to create for themselves in the future that they want to build. I was on a podcast here a couple weeks ago, and it was called The Circuit of Success. And I was actually kind of proud because one of my students was going through the podcast, and they on iTunes they rank the most popular one. And so mine was the most popular one. I said, hey, this is starting to happen. But one of the pieces in the intro, it said, it's just different clips and sound bites. And this guy said something like, a more engaged worker is a worker who understands how to create a bigger future.
Yeah.
And so I thought, man, that's really true.
Yeah.
If you really want to engage people, one of the things at the core of what you have to do is show them how to create a bigger future. And I think what we're both saying here is it's before more opportunity, before more education, before more relationship, you got to get more of yourself.
Yeah.
And
I think what happens is, once again, back to that first statement, in your darkest hour or your greatest moment of opportunity, will you be enough?
Yeah.
And if we haven't done the work, we miss the opportunity.
Beautiful.
You and I have if we take our personal relationship over the last couple of years.
Well, we've had greatest moments and darkest hours.
Well, that's the beauty of it, though. It's the communication piece, where your talent and your ability is different than mine.
Right.
Not good or bad. It's just different.
Yeah.
I've really needed you to be able to come into my life and speak into my life and help me in those places where I was really weak, where I wasn't capable.
Right.
And I've got to do that with you. And the place that has gelled for us are these core values. And all of ours, we wouldn't describe it all the same to each other, but there's enough overlap that anchors us and brings us back to this moment with this idea of purpose. And man, and we've made it work in our own personal relationship, and I think that's really our design.
Yeah.
Each one of us need to be able to do that, whether it's with our children, with our wives, with the sports team. And if you can't communicate that to somebody, then it's really hard to make the most of the opportunity. And then, listen, in that tough spot in life, when all there is negative emotion, and that's going to come, there's going to be adversity for each one of us, period. It's going to happen. It is life.
Yeah.
You got to be able to anchor off to something.
Yeah.
And so I think for me, at least I believe it's the way it works. It's the way it works for me. It's how my life straightened out. And so that pursuit of language, being able to put it in words. Nobody's passing your class and passing the tests if they don't learn the material. If they can't speak back to you what you're hoping to teach them in some sort of format,
Yeah.
some sort of track to run down, they're not going to get the grade they want. And life's going to give you a grade.
Yeah.
I guess if you want to, and maybe it's pass or fail, and we could argue about what the right way to say that is, but to show up and to make the most of your opportunity, I think there has to be something inside you that anchors you, and that's this I believe part that you're speaking of in my mind.
And so give me an example. So the outcome for the student here is if they can complete this material all on their own. There's videos that are built inside of it. We now have supplemental videos on the website that can further reinforce this. Right. If somebody was going to make an I will statement, what would that look like? What is the I will statement? Where you say to yourself, well, that's it for me. How do you know when you have that I will statement?
Yeah, I think that's a great point, and I think the nuance of what this is here specifically in this last challenge is important. Let me start with the I am.
Okay.
The I am, that's where this idea of purpose, we get the opportunity to write that. And if somebody's gone through this from start to finish, then they understand the difference between purpose words, values words,
right.
And we've worked through that whole thing. So for me, it was to challenge, exhort, and encourage.
Okay.
At the very core of who I am, once I worked back to, man, what are my talents? Why am I on this planet? What kind of comes out of me?
Yeah.
You know? I'm a teacher, I'm a coach. That's really kind of who I am. And then I worked hard to develop some language or to find some words that really describe the fabric of that, the foundation of that. That was to challenge, exhort, and encourage. I know when you and I have talked, there isn't any question. It just pours out of you. You don't even have a choice to connect people.
Yeah.
That's part of your deal. Your deal, you walk into a room. I've been in your classrooms. I've listened to you talk to people. And as a part of who you are, as the professor in front of everybody, you continue, you're trying to connect people to something.
Right.
There's no way you can get around it. It is who you are.
Yeah.
So this I am is really the chance to in a short couple of sentences now, we're taking all the language and we're narrowing it completely down into something you can memorize.
Yeah.
And it's connected and it's real and it's a part of who you are, but I can put it out there. The I believe are these core values. There's more language here, but I like folks to get 10 to 12. And those core values represent their strengths, words that they know.
Right.
If I were to say to you, what do you believe in right now? An easy one for a lot of us is family. That's a strength value in our life. Weaknesses, what are the emotional weaknesses that keep popping up in each one of our lives? And we all have them. Sure. None of us are perfect.
Yeah.
So what are those things that you can identify? For me, it was worry. So I worked hard to try to decide what was the core value that was the opposite of worry, and it became hope, and I defined hope. I saw it as a spring. I didn't just go to the dictionary.
Yeah.
I worked hard. What is it? How would it be meaningful to me? And I have, through hard work, become a very hopeful person. So I believe is that portion where we have these core values that are related to strengths, weaknesses, and then wants. Work was something that I put in that category because, truthfully, I wasn't a very hard worker unless it was something I was super interested in. That was the truth.
Yeah.
I would get after it if it was really something I wanted to get after, but there were holes in that. What about the things that are super important in my life that I don't want to do?
Yeah.
So we want to encompass all of that in that section and be very specific about that language. And then the last one, the I will, it's a commitment. It's a mission statement. We see all around us in many different places mission statements. The university has them. The military, police, businesses, everybody has these mission statements. It's a commitment to live out our values, but we don't really do that as individuals. So what a unique opportunity to put in it's your, so to speak, when you get married, you say, I do, and you make a commitment in sickness, in health, all those kinds of things that we make commitments for. This is the commitment that you have that says, I'm going to live out my purpose.
Yeah.
I'm going to pay attention to that language. I'm going to pay attention to my values, and this is my commitment.
All right, so I'm going to try it. Are you ready?
Yeah.
This is all of our stuff wrapped up to one. I'm going to use your stuff now.
Yeah.
I am Colby Jubenville, and I was born to two educators who taught me the way you take on the world is to become an educator, marry an educator, and educate other people. And if I'm sitting here standing in my truth, that's really what I am and I have always been.
There's no question.
And then so
Clearly defines you.
Yes.
It clearly defines your purpose based on everything I know about you.
And so then if I believe I believe the most basic need of people is to connect and feel connected. I believe the greatest opportunity we have on a college campus is to help students find their voice, the intersection of talent and passion and conscience and need in the world. And I believe if we will teach them how to develop and protect and maintain their confidence, that they can accomplish anything they want to accomplish.
Love it.
Here's my I will. I will continue to help MTSU students become gainfully employed in their chosen career path prior to walking across the stage at graduation.
That's fantastic. Now, can you imagine? I mean, it's fantastic. It's perfect. And you played the game.
Yep.
It's not, Grind Your Bee is not the only way. It's just a way.
Right.
It's a way to put it into language. You played the game and you put it in the format.
Yeah.
And literally, in the greatest moments of what you're doing, in your darkest hour, in opportunity, somebody says to you, what is this about?
I can stand in that.
You can stand in it. And it's not a bunch of, here's what I'll do for you. You didn't tell me what you could do for me.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to talk about what they can do. And there's nothing wrong with that. But first, before I really know what you can do, I want to know who you are.
Yeah.
And so this is who I am, and this is what I represent, and this is what I believe. It's crazy, excuse me. It's crazy because when someone does what you just did, the reaction is always silence.
Because it's so visceral, right? I mean, it's so
it's hard.
truthful.
It's really at any point in life when someone says, "Hey, man, here's who I am, here's what I believe, and here's what I'm about." It's super hard. They get that. We
Yeah.
all get to own that.
Yeah.
Whether I think you're nuts or not doesn't really matter, and I don't think you are, but you know what I mean? People get to believe what they believe.
Yeah.
And when we can stand up in front of somebody and say, here's what it is, I can tip my hat, and then we can back up from there and decide if that mission is one we think is appropriate and where our core values overlap, but that's perfect.
Thank you. And so living your bee is really crystallizing and be able to stand up and confidently articulate, I am, I will, and I believe.
Absolutely.
And then the last piece to this in part 3 is you think it's important to have some kind of visual identity.
Yeah.
Call it a code, a shield, coat of arms, a brand.
Yeah.
But you feel like that visual identity is important, and so tell me why. Why is that the last step in this entire process?
It struck me in marketing, you talk about branding.
Yeah.
How much of that goes on around us?
Right.
How much that businesses are vying for our attention and our time and our money, and I remember when I had finished this whole process, looking through my closet and beginning to think about, how do I cap this off? How do I make it be something that I own? Because now I have some language that's mine.
Right.
It really does represent me.
Yeah.
It doesn't belong to anybody else, and I'm super proud of it. And then, and I'm not saying it's bad, but I had Adidas shirts and Nike shirts and, all kinds of stuff that I was putting on. I even saw people with Nike tattoos. People had been branded, and I thought, you know what? For me to cap this thing off, I need my own crest.
Yeah.
I need my own brand. And so I went so far as to have an artist design a crest.
Yeah.
I wasn't handed a family crest. That wasn't something that my family had or passed down. So I thought, man, I want to do this for my children. It's something I want to say, here's who we are as a family. I want to be able to pass that down along with this crest. And that was very much tradition in days gone by,
Right.
in our history. And so I had a tattoo put on my arm, and I only have the one tattoo, but it was extremely significant. And I think, number one, every time I looked at that tattoo, I could not escape the I am, the I believe, and the I will, even if I wanted to. Mm-hmm. All that stuff that I said was significant now was represented in this crest. And so I think the importance part is it takes all the language, it encapsulates it and grabs it and puts it in something visual, so that immediately when you see that, it stands for all that work, and you know what it is. Right. Everybody else doesn't necessarily know that, but that's not the point. The point is, right who you be. Mm-hmm. You know right what your values are. And that brings us to the most profound and important part of this whole entire process. I'll never forget, I was working with a guy in Colorado, and we had gone through 3.5 months of working on this, and he'd worked extremely hard. And, showing up, and I had an office at a little coffee shop, basically. I would show up and meet the clients there. And I remember one day he came blowing through the door at high speed, angry. and he had a workbook in his hand and he threw it at me. I mean, he literally, as he was sitting down, threw it across the coffee table at me, and it landed in my lap, and he was on the verge of violently angry. And I'm like, I've never seen this from him before. And I said, well, what does it matter with you? You know, what is going on? What is happening? And he looked at me and he said something that ended up being extremely profound. He said, I've done all this work. Do you know how hard it's going to be to live it? And I fell back in my chair and I did what you did. I began to laugh. Yep. Now we've done all the work. Now we've done what most people won't do. We've actually put it in language and we know who we are.
Yeah.
The catch is the challenge ends up being not so much will you do the work like we thought, it's will you actually live it.
Yeah.
And so I'm a different kind of person than a lot of people. Not because I'm better than anybody, but the challenge for me is not now, you know, do I know who I am? Because I know who I am.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, honestly, right and wrong, I know what that is 99.9% of the time because I have language. I can filter it right away and know whether or not I believe that is right or wrong, yes or no, how do I want to handle it, make a choice, make a decision, because I got all the language. The question is, will you actually do it? And so I think for me, the branding piece, the logo piece at the end was the daily reminder of, hey, here's what you said. Now will you do it? Now will you actually live it? And that was the key there. And I think that's why it's the final challenge. And to me, we want to keep it in front of you. Here's what you said. We want to learn to live it. We want it to be the filter that we're using all the time.
Yeah.
And that's how my life straightened out.
It's powerful stuff. I want to thank you personally
Yes,
for putting this together, and thank you for the commitment that you've made to take the time to sit down. You know, one of the conclusions, and put this together, one of the conclusions that I've come to is that professionals, if you really look at what separates professionals from other people, is that they have this sense of delayed gratification.
Yeah.
They have the ability to see down the road and see what could be, and are willing to delay that to get the work done so that they can, in fact, enjoy it.
Yeah.
And so from MTSU to you, I want to say thank you for putting this together for our students. And I know that it's valuable stuff that we will use for years to come. And we look forward to staying in touch with you and seeing all the great things that you're doing.
Yes, sir. Well, let me say on two levels. Personally, thank you for what you have done for me, because you have encouraged me and helped me grow big time. It's
Yes,
been
sir.
a two-way street big time.
No doubt.
And I'm going to publicly say that. I'm extremely thankful for, you know, what you've done in my life, and then professionally for seeing value in it. For going, man, like this is unique. This is something that's not being done. This is a way that maybe we can serve it to the generations that are coming in a way they hadn't heard it, and help them move forward.
Serve it up in a way they can get it.
Yes, sir.
You know, and as I sit here and have these kind of conversations with you, and we have to slow down and get in studio, and it's summertime, so we're getting to finish that up now, but I really sit here and say to myself, this is just the beginning
Yes, sir.
of what could be. And so thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
So, hey, that's it for today. I'm Colby Jubenville. This is Middle Tennessee State University. We are the Center for Student Coaching and Success. My good friend Jim Hensel, and we'll see you next time right here.